Good evening, everyone. It's Tom Sydney Bushnell, aka Numbers, here from Psych.Club from the Tom Numbers Show. And today we've got news with Tom Numbers. So we've got Rach back on the show. Mrs. Right Side Blonde. How are you?
I'm good. Staying busy. It's
Staying busy.
a little chilly over here in Iowa.
Yes, it's getting a little chilly over here as well in England. I was sorting out stuff with the car today, and I was in my shorts and hoodie, and yeah, it was chilly.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to wear that today.
I actually put on my warm coat in the evening. I went and got some vegetables later after it was all done before I got on the show with you, and I actually put on a puffer kind of quilt thing jacket.
Did you wear a quilt outside? A blanket? You just put the blanket over top and walked outside? I'm just kidding.
Almost. I could have done. That would probably not be very practical, but it was, I don't know what you call them. I've got one of those, like a kind of little quilted ski jacket thing, you know? Yeah. I don't know what they're called, those things. So I've got one of them, but I don't wear it very often, maybe a few times a year, but I wore it tonight. I'm looking at it over there and it's smiling. It's like, you can't remember my name. I can't remember your name. I don't know what you're called, but you're called a jacket, you know, so, you know. Yeah.
It's all good. I know what you mean.
Yeah. So talking of cold, so I mentioned this a few days ago, and I told the audience I would be doing a show on this, on News with Tom Numbers. So we're doing it now. So a few days ago, this newspaper headline, can you see it?
Whoops-a-daisy. Yeah.
Whoops-a-daisy. So that came up. This came up, I think, on Friday or Saturday. And anyway, Daisy's 58, XRP Star, which is Daily Star, the paper. Ivanka, so she always pops up. But talking of popping up and the weather, so it has been cold here, and it's particularly cold tonight. But out in the garden, there were 3 daisies that popped up out of nowhere. And it happened at the same time I got this in the newspaper.
Are you using that special thing you were telling me about you put in the garden and it helps the
plant? Yeah. So I'm not actually, but I do walk out there with it. So yeah, so I've got my shungite. That's the garden puck. Nice segue there, Rach. We didn't even plan that.
I was just curious.
So this is, yeah, so this will help your plants grow for sure. And it keeps your food. So you could put that in. I mean, that's a smaller one for the garden, but there's a big one. Like, well, you've got this one, you've got the sleeping puck, and I have 2 of those in my bed. I actually slept with 4 of them last night because I just felt I wanted to have a good. I did have some kind of wacky dreams with those last night. But then you've got the shungite. You've got the charging plate, which is a lot bigger. It's about that in width, in diameter. Yeah, width. So that's the full kind of circumference of the big one. And I got that in the fridge. And I've also got one for my water. I put my water jug on, and that structures your water, and it also keeps your veggies and fruit fresh. Like I had blueberries fresh for 7 weeks in there. Wow. They were kind of fresher than they were when I bought them.
There's going to be there's going to be so many things like this that have to do with structure and things that are unseen.
Yeah. It's all energy, it's all fields. So that show I did with Juan the other day, I asked him about this, and he was fully aware of all this. So the shungite is from a meteor rock that landed in Russia. Russia's 87, Truth, Justice, Junior, Stella. And he was going into all the properties of it, and he got into magnetism and the fields. And
I watched that.
What's that?
I said I watched that, and he was talking about how, you know, what causes it to have that much force to hold on to things, because there's electricity for it.
I'd never even thought of it like that. I mean, I always knew magnets. I used to love playing with them as a kid, but then it's like, how has that got that kind of eternal power? How does that happen? I mean, it shows you there's other stuff out there that we don't understand. But the shungite does it, so it has a field attached to it. Plus, it's also combined with orgonite. So orgonite is made of like metal filings, and that produces a field as well, which preserves. So the combined 2 things, the shungite and the orgonite, that's what makes these things so powerful. People love them. I mean, these fly off the shelves. Literally, people are buying hundreds and hundreds of them a week. It's amazing. And the interesting thing on it, the numbers. So orgonite is 103, and shungite is also 103. You can get the phone shields, but you add those together, it's 206, which is quantum physics. And there's something to it, because it's other stuff. It's other. When you've got the pyramid, this one focuses the energy. Put this in the middle of your house, it gives it protection. It's really amazing, and I felt better since I've been using them. I mean, I wear the pendants and necklaces. I'll put these in my pockets if I'm going down on the coast or the beach. I'll just put that in my pocket, and it's great. But 206 orgonite plus shungite, 206 quantum physics. So yeah, no, who knows? Maybe something happened out there in the garden though, because this is what popped up. Let me show you the picture of it. So yeah, you can see them here. So they're the three. So they're not technically daisies, but they're big daisies.
Mm-hmm.
So those three things popped up in the garden in the middle of November, and it's cold, you know, and I've never seen them before. And the funny thing is they've gone now. Now, I don't know if the gardener chopped them down in the week, because sometimes there's a gardener that comes through early in the morning and does the gardening. But I kind of feel like they might have just gone. They were around for about 2 or 3 days. I got the pictures. You can actually compare it to a normal daisy. So you might not be able to see this, but so just there, this side, there's a little white dot. That's an actual daisy with the white petals and the yellow inside.
Oh, yeah.
But then the three bigger ones are those ones. They're the three bigger ones. They're the ones that came out of nowhere, and that's the regular daisy. But they popped up at the same time as that code in the paper came up. I was like, because it always happens. It always happens. It's like, it never fails. So I did a show with Nino yesterday. It's coming out tomorrow, no, Friday and Saturday. So he's got one of these big Darth Vaders as well.
Really?
Yeah. He's like, hey, like Darth Vader? I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I've got one. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. Is it like 3? He's like, yeah. He's got one. So we've both got one. And then I showed him the code from a few months ago when I had the Daily Star, and it had the picture of Darth Vader holding up a mobile phone. Because Darth Vader doesn't usually hold up a mobile phone, but there's a guy on TV called Tom Numbers on YouTube that holds up mobile phones and does decodes and shows the paper, and Darth Vader's just over his shoulder, So maybe we'll see 2 Darth Vader. If there's 2 Darth Vaders anywhere or Darth Vader ×2 or something like that, or 2 Star Wars, that's a nod to what me and Nino did. But the numbers on Whoops-a-Daisy are this. There we are. Yeah, so Whoops-a-Daisy is 155. So Whoops is 96, which is spaceship, Atlantis. Kushner, interestingly enough. Daisy is 58, which is Ivanka. And then A is 1, but that's 59. So that's Joker. Juan talked about the Joker. This is the other thing. So Juan, in my show the other night with him, he talked about Murder on the Orient Express. The next night, it's on the TV. And then he talked about snooker. So, like English snooker, like pool, 8-ball pool.
Okay, yeah.
So in America, people call it snooker. So we call it snooker. And last week, I actually was with Barry Hearn, who's a sports promoter here in England. And his son, Eddie, does boxing and stuff all around the world. But Barry is snooker, darts, fishing, boxing. He's the one that set it all up and handed over the empire to his son, and Eddie's grown it since then. But I was having dinner with him last Monday. Anyway, the snooker is on TV tonight, and I don't really follow it all the time. Back in the 80s, I used to watch it all the time, big, but it's still there. But it came on last night, and I'm like, that's so weird. It's like Murder on the Orient Express and snooker have been on consecutive nights since I did the show with Juan a couple of nights ago, 3 nights ago. Well,
I was listening to, he did a show with Matt and Andrew from Midas Gold, who they are on I have a show on georgevideo.com called Not Just Politics as Usual, and Matt and Andrew are on every week. And they had one on, I think last week, but they finally published it yesterday. So I was listening to it.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was talking a lot about the financial, how important it is to have a backup plan and everything. But then Matt and Andrew were like, yeah, we're going to go on a show with Rachel Right Side Blonde and Kellyanne. And Juan was like, oh, you've picked some beautiful people to shoulder up with. And I was like, thanks, Juan. That was really nice.
There you go.
Nice to say that.
Yeah. You know what? Talking of that, I saw a little clip. So usually when I go to bed at night, I'll just do whatever I'm doing, but I'll scroll through YouTube shorts usually, and they're all like primed for the stuff I like. So there's like,
of course, they got that algorithm down.
Yeah, and then anyway, so something came out. So there was one with Candace Owens, and I can't remember, someone was interviewing her, and it was just a little quick one, and she was talking about President Trump, and she was discussing it when she met him, and she basically said he's really down to earth, and made her feel relaxed and was funny and laughed and said hello to her, and then he said, "Oh, you're really beautiful," and then he said, "But I don't want to get me too'd. I don't want to get me too'd," and she thought that was, it's funny. It's like, of course that's funny, and so that's what she said last night. So he said to Candace, "You're beautiful," but then but I don't want to get me too'd, and she obviously enjoyed him saying that and took it as a compliment. But it was funny because he's like, "Yeah, don't want to get me too'd." So if you ever say that, guys, if you say a girl's beautiful, you can say it, but don't get me too'd.
You know what? It's
actually me too'd now. If you flip it on its head, it's all of these things, all these, and I'm going to get some comments, and I don't care because you'll be bots. It's always the bots that are and the bots always go to the top of the comments. So I've never seen them before, and then they pop up, and then it's designed to try and distract the real crowd. But I think the real crowd are wise enough now,
Yeah, I think there's a difference between a man saying a woman's beautiful and meaning it, and there's a difference between, and it's all in the tone too. You get some creepy people that are like, "Oh, you're this," but then you have people who are like, "Oh, you're beautiful." There's a difference.
Yeah.
But I think women should, for them to be like, why are you giving me a compliment? I think it's okay for people to say, I think you're beautiful. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Obviously, if they're being creepy about it, then there's a difference. There's a big difference.
That's it. I think as well, it might even be whether it's creepy. I can't really speak for it because I'm not although I don't know, can girls be creepy? Maybe, but not. It's usually guys, isn't it?
Yes. Remember, there was the creepy lady that we ran into that like disappeared behind the wall. Do you remember that? We were talking to Nino actually, and that creepy woman came up and was acting.
Yeah. I remember. Yeah, I've forgotten that. I'm glad you remember these things. I'd forgotten that. Yeah, she did. I think she was just a bit unhinged as well, a bit strange.
Yeah, I just remember looking at her thinking, did that just happen? That was kind of crazy. This for the viewers, they're probably wondering what just happened. No, we were talking about stuff.
They're like, where did that go? Yeah.
She came up and she started recording our conversation, and I was like, we were talking about something that we really didn't want recorded, and I was like, hey, please don't. Yeah, then she went kind of wacko.
Yeah,
maintained eye contact the whole time. That was weird.
I think as well with Candace Owens and because it's like, I guess it depends who's saying it and who is saying it. So it's like President Trump says it, or wants that they don't mind it, or if I say it to my audience or whatever, it's like, everything's intention, isn't it? Everything's intention. So people can pick up on the intention of the deliverer. So it can be, some people could say anything in the world, and it could be derogatory in some circles, but because it's coming from them, that's what comedy is,
Yeah.
That's what, you can say anything and get away with it because they know it's in the framework of being funny, But if it's delivered wrong, it could backfire. It could be a mess.
Yeah, we were just talking about this yesterday on another show. We were talking about comedians and how comedians really don't have. I mean, their creativity is probably completely being stifled at this point because everyone's so sensitive that it's hard to even say anything. And we actually brought up the show The Office, which is one of my favorite shows.
With Ricky Gervais.
I mean, with Steve Carell, I think someone said, like, Steve, would you ever have a reboot of The Office? And he basically said something like, we could never do that show in today's day and age because everything they said, think about all the jokes and all of the crazy they would do that would never fly today.
Was it you that I was talking to last time about when I met Ricky Gervais, or was it someone else?
I think so. Yes, you did.
And how he was still playing character. He was in character. He was still being, you know, Ricky Gervais, the comedian, which I guess obviously he is, but I just shook his hand and said, "Oh, thanks for coming." And he looked at me like, yeah, it's like, okay.
So do you have a database of all the famous people you've met?
Do I have a what?
A database of all the famous people that you've met or shook
Oh,
hands with?
no, just in my head. I mean, sometimes I forget. There's a few that I kind of forget. You know what's really strange, actually, Rach? So I don't really. So back in the day, so this is what my mind used to be like. So I always wanted to be at the top table. I wanted to be successful. I was into football. I got to know lots of guys in football. I had a few breaks in football, but nothing substantial, nothing consistent. I got a few managers telling me, well, it makes them look a bit silly if they don't know how to motivate the players, and you're doing it. And so I understood that, but they were honest with me about it. And then I'd go to places, I'd look around, and I didn't realize when I was at dinners with people, probably a lot of the ones that I thought weren't capable, they're probably handlers. And that's kind of the reality of what a lot of them were. Because honestly, there's so many kind of people in the game, and they don't really have any ability. And I talk to them, I'm like, I don't know how, I couldn't figure it out. But now, since 2020, I'm like, okay, I get it now. And I think I was protected. But I used to have, a lot of, I still do. A lot of them, some have become friends. I knew Matt Letitia ages ago, not as well as I do now.
I like Matt. Matt's really
great. Yeah, I was with Matt last week, and he's brilliant. So it prepared me for this time now. It was like, I don't care who they are. I mean, I don't care, but I'm easy around those types of people. But that kind of desire to do that has kind of gone, because I see through it now. I see a lot of people, what they may or may not be, and it just floats away. That kind of. But it prepared me, and I didn't realize that we didn't go through the photon beam of 2020, whatever you want to call it, that change, that activation, that hadn't happened yet. So I was on that other side of, I still, was hoping and looking for stuff, but until that actual marker in the sand of time happened, and some of us were daisies that popped out of nowhere in the winter, that's kind of what happened. And you would never predict 3 daisies to pop out like that in November, but they did. And that's kind of what happened with me and so many of others of us. You were doing what you were doing, and then you've been here, and it's like we popped up, and so those other things kind of just disappeared. But you know what? I'd be happily surprised as well. I'm sure there are some hiding in the shadows that I didn't realize were good and on our side, but that will become obvious in time. But some are. So Matt Letitia is one of them.
Yeah, I think just thinking back to the time before we quote unquote woke up to the corruption and everything in 2020, it woke a lot of people up.
Yeah.
And knowing like I was focused on raising my children. 2016, I had my youngest child. And so I was focused on raising that baby. And, you get tunnel vision on your family and the things like that, which I think is good. You have to put your family first. You have to raise your children. But it also helps put into perspective the people now that just, it's like, why can't you wake up? Why can't you? And I think back to when I was raising my little girl, and she's a baby, a newborn. If somebody were to come to me and say, hey, this and this and this and this were going on, I would have been like, you're crazy. I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm not in that mindset. So knowing that, and we all woke up just when we were supposed to, we all had those moments where it's like, wait a second, at just the right time in each of our own lives. So I've almost like not given up on the people that may not wake up. I've said, like, if they're meant to see it, they'll see it. God will open their eyes. They'll see what they need to see at the right time. But I'm going to keep sharing the truth. And if they have ears for the truth and they want to hear it, then they will. But otherwise, I'm not going to sacrifice my peace and well-being for someone that maybe they're just not meant to see it. I don't know. It's just kind of crazy.
Have you seen all 3 Back to the Futures?
Yes.
Do you know the third one, the Wild West one?
Mm-hmm.
So that I went and saw the night before I saw Barry, the sports producer. So last weekend I went and watched them again on the big screen, and big screen. So I was like, I'm going to go do that. And the third one, there's a part where Emmett Brown, the doc, he pretends he's going to have a drink, but he's not. He's kind of he's upset about his love interest, Clara Clayton.
Yep.
125 time travel, John Kennedy, Dark Light. Anyway, so that whole narrative is going on. But what happens is he has like a whiskey, but he doesn't drink it, and then all of a sudden he does, and then it knocks in. He falls flat out, and because he doesn't really drink, and he boom.
Yeah.
And then they try and wake him up, and they say, "Oh, we're going to get some." They call it a wake up juice.
Oh yeah. So
they make it the wake up juice, which is all this concoction of all these other things, and they're putting it down his gullet. And what happens is he wakes up, boom, but then he goes crazy and he runs out, and they have to put him. He kind of puts his head in the water trough, and then he's like, oh, and then he passes out again, and then they take him through the wake up process again. But then the second time he wakes up and he's okay. So I've always looked at that part and I thought, you know what, if you wake people up kind of against their will, I don't want to be too airy because there's a bit too much of that, I think, as well. It's everything's free. It's like, well, okay, but it affects everyone else and we've got a job to do. So I'm not going to, I'm not in that area, but I think what it does is it illustrates, if you wake someone up if they're forced against it, they won't be able to calibrate. And then he's given the example the second time, or it's shown as an example the second time where he wakes up and he's okay and he understands. And but it's interesting because they call it wake up juice. There's a lot of comms in Back to the Future. There's about an hour before that in the film, there's the bit where him and his love interest are looking up at the sky, the night sky, with a telescope. And I always used to look at that and I was like, oh, it's a Bushnell telescope, because it's a brand of binoculars and telescopes, and it's golden. It's 57, which is Tesla. England 57, Wood, my grandparents 57. But she says, totally out of context, she says, when I was 11 years old, I had a dream that my dad told me that we would quarantine for 3 months. It's like, where the heck's that come from? That's in the middle of the film. And it would make no sense until we got to 2020. That film's been out since, I don't know, 1990 or whenever it was. But it made sense. And another thing in Back to the Future 2, you've got the shark. The shark. I asked Juan about the shark at the weekend, but so you've got Jaws 3D, you've got the shark movie, and it's Marty McFly in the future. Yes. And he goes, dude, and you hear them, and it comes out, and it's a hologram. So one thing is it's fake because it scares him, but then he realizes it wasn't anything. But they coded that because it says Jaws 19. And the word Jaws in numbers is 53, which comes to COVID. And the word Jaws, when you translate it into Italian, comes to the word Fauci. So you have Jaws 19, Fauci 19, COVID 19. And it's there in Back to the Future. And the thing is, it showed it was fake.
It showed a hologram. It showed the hologram, which is kind of a soft disclosure to some, because now they know that that's actually a thing, that holograms can be used for various events. So that whole wake up thing you were explaining, I feel like it could be almost like when you actually do wake up, it's very, very shocking. You wake up and it's like, you don't know what's real. You don't know who's good. You don't know who's bad. And then you go back to sleep for a little bit. Like, a lot of us are getting tired of the grind. So you kind of like take a break from it. And then when you come back, you can almost see things a little clearer, and you can, you have a little bit better discernment. You're looking at it with your head and not your heart the second time you come back to it. So maybe that's what they're trying to say too. I don't know. It's just interesting.
Yeah. I think so. I think they are. And also as well, so like with my experience, I was awake or in the wake. If you want to say awake or in the awakening process, people get all technical about stuff. It's like, no, just be fluid, just express what you feel. So all my life, really, I was always asking the question why, and always searching for answers or wanting to know the truth of things. And I always believed in the big, magical, glorious, divine possibilities, but I wasn't seeing too much of it. I mean, there were happy things along the road. I had a happy upbringing, and but I've got to say, probably in my 20s, all the way to up until COVID, really. Well, there I can say the word, but I felt how do you put it? Kind of, I mean, sometimes you can feel alone now. Like we can feel alone because we're all kind of spread out, but we still got each other. We're still connected, even remotely. And then we meet physically. But back then, when I look back at it, it was just kind of empty. Like I was searching. I was like, I know there's something bigger and better than this, but it felt like years and probably decades really until we got to this. But I didn't know how it was gonna. I didn't expect this to come. Maybe subconsciously I did, but I didn't consciously know. But I'm so glad because everything I went through prepared me for this time, and I've been prepped for this. You know, I didn't know that the download of numbers would come to me in 3 weeks and be like, boom, there you go, you've got 3 PhDs of numbers to play with. But I welcomed it because I was ready. I was those days. It was like, okay, guess what? In 2020, there's going to be 3 days that are going to just pop out of nowhere, and you'll be one of them. I'm like, or maybe all 3. But I didn't know, but I felt this. So when I think about memories back before then, it's like, I wouldn't want to go back to that at all. And not without the light, because the thing is, the light came when we went through that barrier. So many of us got, you know, in that process, that time we jumped up and I just was, okay, ready. Have you seen Transformers with
No.
Shia LaBeouf and Megan Fox? So I always see them. I need to watch them properly because it's a film that I always get kind of bits and pieces. I've never watched them properly through. Anyway, particularly in episode 2. So Shia LaBeouf is basically, it's not what happens to me, but I can relate to it. So he's getting these codes coming to him and he's going all over the place and he's writing them down and correct. And it's like, that's a bit like what the numbers are like, you know? So I laugh at it. I can relate to it. I also had a really dear friend called Dow Jock, who was a maths genius. I say was, I hope he's still around. I haven't spoken to him for a while. I'm hopefully he's alive. But he would write codes and mathematical formula on his mirror, like his wardrobe mirror. The whole thing was like a kind of hieroglyphic construct. And Dow was doing that all the time. And I'm like, I even wonder if he had an effect on me because he's a dear friend. And even though we haven't spoken for a few years, I've reached out to him, but I don't know if he's around or not. We spoke once or twice during 2020. But this thing with Transformers, he was getting downloads and codes and stuff, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense to me, you know. And people get it. You get your intuition, you get your number plate, you get your numbers. But something happened, you know, and I would not want to go back.
I know.
I maybe would go back with this download of knowledge, and I could probably subsist in that. But I'm so grateful that we're this side of it. I mean, there's more to go, but I'm really grateful that we're here, because if I was ready for a long time.
Right. There was last night I was on one of the social media sites and they were talking about Here Comes the Sun, and they're talking about different versions of sun.
Yeah.
And they were also talking about the letter R, and I was like, holy cow, this is crazy, because my daughter's name starts with an R. And I make artwork for both of my kids when they were born. I made their artwork and designed their room. And
have you noticed that your name begins also with an R?
Yes. So I got this big giant R.
I know you have.
For her room. And then I also wrote, her thing is, so my son's theme was like vintage sports. My daughter's is music lyrics. And so I created this thing that said, Here Comes the Sun. And it has a beautiful yellow sun. And
yeah,
I'm like, that's crazy. There's an R and a Here Comes the Sun. So I feel like there's something to, we didn't know maybe what we were being prepared for, but we were definitely being prepared for something. And I think the best is yet to come. And when we find out what the heck we were being prepared for.
I know the best is yet to come, and I'm looking forward to finding out what it is and how it is, who it is, where it is. Yeah. And I think it'll be more of this, but I'm sure there's other stuff we just don't, you know. Put it this way, what compared to before 2020, this is pretty good, like really good. And I think it will be probably hundreds of thousands.
2024, at least we know there's an end date. The election day of 2024. That's it.
Did I send you that? Did we talk? We might have spoken about it last time. So there was that film with Keanu Reeves about surrogates. Is it called Surrogates? I don't think it is, but they're cloning people. But the name of the scientific company doing it is, what's it called? Ecosystem or something. But it's 310. They put 310. They did a graphic on it instead of like the letters. They had 310 at the beginning of the word. I was like, it's right there in front of 310 is the November 5th next year. That's the day of the year. 310 is the quantum financial system. The creature from Jekyll Island, which is the Fed, that goes down. That's the reverse of it. Malachi 310 is the prophecy. I think Malachi, if I remember rightly, is 47 actually.
Yeah.
You know, which is John, which is Rachel, which is France, Sarah, atomic silver. Do you know that scripture as well? Yes, I think it's in Isaiah, and it talks about the refiner's fire and being purified as silver. So it's a metaphor. It's Isaiah. It's a metaphoric, kind of poem. But it's basically saying when you look into the silver and it's purified enough, you're looking for God or for Jesus, and you basically see yourself. You see the reflection, and that's 47 is atomic silver, the atomic number. But the reverse reflection of 47 is 74, which is gematria. Which is Jesus, which is Messiah, which is Muhammad, which is English. It's the language that we're all speaking. London, DeLorean, the time machine, Tarot, 74. Yeshua, if you do it with the apostrophe, is also 74. I think Jewish is 74. Druze, I think, is 74. All kinds of things are 74. But it's when you peer into that silver. I'm misquoting it, but you're peering into the silver, and as it's purified, you're looking for God, and then it purifies, and it's like a mirror. It has this film of reflection, and you see yourself, and it's like, okay. But it's 47 atomic silver, and then it's 74, which is gematria, yeah. So.
Well, I need to go. Speaking of my children, I need to go.
You need to go and pick them up. You have to go back to mum duty. So. I
gotta put my mom hat on now. So.
Put that cap on. You do a good job. Good. Thanks, Rach. How can people find you?
Yeah, you can check out my YouTube channel, which is just at Right Side Blonde, like writing a book, WRITE. And I also have a website, rightside.blonde.com, if you want to check out. Those are either one will get you to my videos.
Check it out. Talking of writing a book, so I've got my Substack. I'm about to launch my first chapter. So I'm writing a book, which is
awesome.
Fun. Yeah. And you and me are going to start flying planes.
Yes, at some point, hopefully in my near future. Well,
yesterday or the night before, you were saying, "Oh, bring it on!" Like,
yeah, I do. Well, when I feel like someone's being competitive with me, then like the trash talking begins. It's like
I know, I could see that. I was like, okay, she means it. All right, okay. Well, she meant it at the time. We'll see. But when you said that, and it was like game on. Do you know what came into my head? Wayne's World.
I haven't seen that movie in years.
Wayne's World is a Q movie. I was 17 years old when that came out, and I laughed my socks off, laughed my pants off when I saw that. I made the comparison between Trump Tower, Wayne Tower for Batman, Bruce Wayne, and Wayne's World, Trump World. And one of his NFTs is Trump Hollywood. Like, it's the Hollywood sign, but it's Trump World. Did that ages ago, back in the day. But when you said game on, there's a bit in Wayne's World where they're playing hockey, roller hockey out on the street. And so Garth, I was like, okay, I'm Wayne. I've had long hair in my time. And then Rachel can be Garth with the long blonde hair. So it was like Wayne and Garth, game on. So we'll go from hockey into a plane. So yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right, Thomas. Well, I'll see you next time.
See you next time. See you soon. Cheers, Rach.
Cheers.
Bye. Bye. Oh, hang on. I haven't clicked end. There we go. This is the end.
Okay.
This is the Wayne's World out credits. It's good that we didn't say anything
This is
bad.
an outtake.
This is the outtake.
Difficulties.
Okay. Oh, when are you going to do your coffee show?
Soon.
I gave you inspiration earlier for that.
I know you did. You did.
There you go. All right. See you later. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Damn, I can't turn it off.
I'm
There
gonna
you
hit leave.